purpose of Freethought Forum is to be vigilant to the encroachment of religion into government and to educate the general public as to what a freethinker is.
My thoughts give me power.
No scholar can map them.
No hunter can trap them. No person can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei. No person can.
Hello, this is Don Lawrence for Freethought Forum. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. We're going to talk about an upcoming celebration in Comfort, Texas on October the 4th. I have Ed Scharf, the committee chairman, here with me, and we're going to give you details on what we hope will be a groundbreaking, I won't say hell, yes I will say hell-raising activity here in Central Texas. It'll be one of the first of its kind, and we're really excited about it. Speaking of excited, in our last program we talked about the government war against drugs, and we had a guest, Paul Dubé, with us. We've had quite a few inquiries, and our producer, Catherine Fahringer, introduced the term inquiring minds want to know. So inquiring minds wanted to know where you could get more information about some of the subjects that we covered. And so we have a web page address for you. You can get an extensive background to the subject at www.dnglobal.com/SODA, S-O-D-A. I believe that stands for State of the Disunion Address, SODA. So if you'll look at that page on the net, on the web, then you'll find extensive information about the war on drugs, some of the disinformation that's spread about the effects of drugs, and what some of the effects of the policy are. Before we get into our subject for today, I also want to make sure that we give each of you, or cause each one of you, to stop and think what this program is about. The producers and staff of this program are dedicated to the idea that we as human beings can understand what the world is about, that we don't have to be bound by dogma, that we can become aware of what cultural forces and religious ideas have shaped our minds, and that we can step aside from these things and use our faculties, use our mental powers to take a second look at some of the things that we believe, that we can become free in our thoughts, hence our title, Freethought Forum, and that's why we call ourselves Freethinkers. So throughout this program and the other programs that we present, we want you to think about becoming independent in your thoughts and breaking free of the dogma and becoming aware of the cultural boundaries that you set for yourself. The celebration that I mentioned earlier, October the 4th in Comfort, Texas at 1 in the afternoon, is going to be a tribute to the folks that have gone before. One of the people who's done a lot of work about putting this celebration together is Ed Scharf, and he's in the studio with me today. It's a real pleasure to have you, Ed. I always enjoy your company, on camera or off camera. Let's get into what this shindig's going to be here on October the 4th.
Well, the feeling, Don, of getting together with you is mutual. We always seem to have a good time, as I guess most freethinkers do. You can pretty well let yourself go, express your thoughts freely, openly. Now, the shindig that we're talking about, as you mentioned, it's rather an extraordinary event. It's probably going to be the first and the only one, to my knowledge, in the United States, or maybe even in the world, where there's a memorial actually built to previous or early freethinkers. Some of the early freethinkers in the northern part of the United States actually constructed buildings for their own use. but I don't know of any other monument or cenotaph before this one that we're putting together in Comfort, Texas. We have a lot of people to thank for this. The Chamber of Commerce of Comfort has just been great. They actually control the park through a lease program, and they willingly gave us permission to put what we call a cenotaph, a rather large monolithic boulder being topped by an American bald eagle, which of course represents the freedom that these freethinkers were looking for. And we hope to have our official Texas State historical marker to put on it. Thanks a lot to the Kendall County Historic Committee. And also we need to thank the Comfort Heritage Foundation. They have served as a conduit for any donations being made to this particular effort. Comfort Heritage Foundation has established a fund, and actually the cenotaph we're putting together has room for growth. It could be added to, not for extra rock necessarily, but for extra plates to be put on the sides, because some of these early freethinkers made some rather profound statements that just shook the state and even the nation, that people should be aware of. Their famous 1854 Sangerfest convention held in San Antonio, of all places, where they called for freedom for all people, rather liberal, radical ideas. Freedom for all people.
That was before the Civil War, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah. This was in the mid-1800s, late 1840s, into the 1850s. And actually this year, 1998, marks the 150th anniversary of the German Revolution for freedom. The Germans tried to follow what happened here in the United States, where we rebelled, of course, against the English crown, and were successful. And then later the French had their revolution, and which also was successful. Unfortunately, the Germans, following in 1848, weren't successful, and many of these people that we're honoring with this cenotaph ended up serving prison terms. And we're talking college professors, we're talking lower-ranking nobility, medical, physicians, artists, really an extraordinary group of people.
I have to say, before becoming involved with this effort, and I became involved on the periphery. You're so mild-mannered about all of this, Ed, but you've certainly been the spark plug for all of this. But I really wasn't aware of the history of this area in that regard, that there actually was a significant community of people with, as you say, ideas that could shake the world, that lived right here in the San Antonio and the Hill Country area during that time. One of the things that we have ready here is some video of when we got this giant piece of rock. Yeah, you sweated in the hot Texas sun, I know, selecting that from the quarry. I like your story that Catherine Fahringer went to the quarry with you and braved rattlesnakes there among the boulders. Were there really rattlesnakes there, Ed? You think there were really rattlesnakes there?
Well, let me set the record straight, Don. First of all, as you probably know, as most do, I've been against this project from the very beginning. And Catherine Fahringer, my wife, my brother Al, actually we toured a lot of different quarries all through Central Texas, quite a few of them, at least 12 or 15. We went through stream beds looking for the perfect monolithic boulder that would represent the strong character of these early freethinkers. Yeah. And we were looking for something roughly maybe 8 feet high, 4 feet on the side. And actually on the last quarry we went to, Catherine was along with my brother Al, and we were climbing up and down over rocks. The pit we were in was 130 feet deep, and it was probably 115, 120 degrees down in the quarry. And these particular rocks were part of the cap rock. And I guess that's what attracted us to them. They looked so good. And they had fallen that 130-foot distance, and this one was still one solid piece. It had one slight side that extended a little too far, which we had to trim later. But Catherine, I blame primarily, and I guess my wife, for picking that particular stone.
So it's all, once again, the women are at fault.
The women are always at fault. Just like the old biblical approach, I guess. The women are blamed. You know, it was either the apple or the stone, you know.
Yeah.
We have them to blame for everything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a great, I think it's going to be a great monument. We have some footage of it here. So let's take a look at the monument that we picked out. See, here it's arrived in comfort, and they've managed to get it off of that giant flatbed truck, and they put chains around it. Now, what's the size of this rock, Ed? What are we talking about?
Actually, it's about 12 feet high and almost 6 feet in width, and we're looking at 65,000 pounds, 32.5 tons. Now, we were delayed, and I apologize to all of the people at the park that waited 4 or 5 hours to get there from the quarry with it. But the quarry management personnel and myself had all guessed that we didn't have over 30 to 35,000 pounds here. So the initial truck we had would have been crushed by this particular boulder.
You're saying this is a monumental rock, huh?
And so we had to catch a huge truck coming in from Blanco it was a great time, and it finally arrived, and we had a crane that would lift, I think, some 70,000 pounds. You know, just a little to spare, not that much.
Yeah, yeah.
But
boy, that's an impressive piece of rock there, Ed, I have to say.
I'd invite everybody to go up and have a look at it. It's just impressive, so impressive to stand there and see it, you know, in person. As the rock, as if it had a person.
I think it changed the skyline of Comfort, didn't it, Ed?
You know, Comfort is noted for some of the bad floods that have gone through the area. At least if a flood ever wipes out Comfort, we'll be able to know where it was, because I don't think this rock can ever go anywhere.
I think there'll be a high water mark somewhere up on that rock. Huh?
That's always a possibility, but it's on this rock that we're going to mount the official historical plaque, you know, which denotes the achievements of the early freethinkers. Now, we plan on October 4th, this is a Sunday afternoon, and it promises to be a good day, I understand. We'll start the activities around 2 o'clock, and these activities will run probably to about 6 o'clock. We plan to have an old German Oompa band to kind of set the tone. We'll have some quite distinguished speakers. Catherine Fahringer, of course, will be there, and you possibly will be there as one of the speakers, Don.
Well, that'll be fun.
We'll have Maury Maverick Jr. and Fred Schmidt, journalists for the Express News.
Those fellows are institutions in this area. It'll be an honor to be in their presence.
Well, and as a surprise, one of the old friends of both of them is Ronnie Duggar, who used to be the editor for the Texas Observer.
Absolutely. He's an institution too.
Okay. He had heard about this and has indicated he's not going to miss this. He's going to be coming down for it. Certainly wants to be a part of it. Dan Barker from the Freedom from Religion Foundation is coming down. He's going to be part of the activities, giving one of his great piano concerts that I understand you just don't want to miss, and afterwards there'll be a banquet in his honor across the street from the Cenotaph at the Cypress Creek Cafe, which Catherine Fahringer is putting together.
The Cypress Creek Cafe. I understand that's quite an institution in Comfort. I don't think you could have picked a better place.
Well, the old Cypress Creek, I think, got washed down the creek. Now, this one isn't quite as close to the creek anymore. But it's appropriate that Dan Barker from Freedom from Religion Foundation does come here, because it was his mother-in-law, Ann Gaylor, who actually is responsible for a lot of this happening. She talked to Catherine Fahringer, who is on the executive board of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and said, hey, you folks in your area had something great happened 150 years ago, you know, you need to look into it. And then Catherine, you know how she can badger you into doing things. Gave me no rest. And here we are today.
Yeah, well, the rest is almost history, isn't it? It's all almost history. Well, will there just be a platform there with a bunch of people speaking, or will there be some other activities associated? Will we be listening to 3 hours of speeches, or what else can we do?
Not at all. First of all, Comfort Park is just a fantastic, hidden secret of a park. Has a beautiful large gazebo in which the band and the ceremonies will be taking place, except pulling the cord, identifying the historical marker. But they have a great building off to the side, that opens up, and a pavilion area in which this is where Dan will be giving his piano concert, but also it has a lot of tables that will have displays on, and we're encouraging descendants of some of these early freethinkers that are being honored here to bring out some of their old pictures, their old memorabilia, and quite a few books have been written about these people. I shouldn't say quite a few, maybe half a dozen or so. We're inviting all of those authors to come and show, the books that they have published. And who knows, we might have some T-shirts commemorating the first annual Freethought Festival, because we hope this will be a recurring event. It should be a lot of fun.
Your piece of the rock, huh? Boy, that's a catchy phrase, Ed. Maybe
we made that.
Maybe we could. Maybe we could make something, a build on that. On this rock, I will build my Freethought.
Actually, when we were down in the quarry, and Catherine said, "That's the rock," you could almost hear this booming voice say, "Thou art Catherine, and on this rock will I build my cenotaph." That is exactly what we were thinking.
Ed, you better watch out. There's lightning. Lightning can reach in this studio. Actually, I can't help that. Every time I think about lightning striking someone, there's this wonderful story about when Benjamin Franklin invented the lightning rod, how he was damned to hell all over the United States and Europe because he was interfering with God. That the lightning rod was an invention of the devil because it kept lightning from hitting the ones that God intended, So that was every time someone says something, and naturally our culture makes us spring into that mode of be careful, God may strike you dead with lightning. And
it's amazing. I classify Benjamin Franklin as an early freethinker.
Absolutely.
Tom Paine, the first 7 presidents of the United States, the founders of this nation, which so often people are told we're founded on a Christian nation, and all of the early ones were really freethinkers, and they were damned by the clergy for being infidels and non-Christians.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're in good company, Ed.
We're in great company. They're all dead, though, no.
Figuratively speaking.
Where would we be today without these people?
Absolutely.
It takes freethinkers with a progressive attitude to move forward.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Well, I'm looking forward to attending. We're going to have some. The video that you saw earlier is just a small sample of the video that I'm sure will be available after this event. We'll bring some of that here on this program, and you'll get a chance to see more about that kind of thing. One of the things that I want to ask you, Ed, is have we had any trouble from the state authorities or political groups or anything about getting the marker approved? Are there hurdles that we still have to go through to get that taken care of? I don't mean just to paint you in a corner on this, but I'm really curious if we're getting through that process okay.
That process is being worked right now. We have exchanged ideas on how the inscription should read between the state and us, and it's been a real challenge for the state, I dare say, because when they came in with their first recommendation, and then it was passed among freethinkers all over the state, and you know, obviously no two freethinkers are going to agree.
Yeah.
So it was a challenge putting together a freethinker position and going back to the state, and I think they say they were quite impressed.
Yeah.
And so then they came back, accepted most of it, and made a few recommendations, which we have taken now and gone back, and we should be hearing hopefully in the next 2 or 3 days from them on a final. And they've been great to work with, I must say. It hasn't been easy, I know, for them. They staff some 200 inscriptions a year, you know, at the state level, and I think it's only one lowly or poor historian, you know, up there working it. Now, speaking of trouble, Comfort is just a fantastic city. It's a great city of a population of about 1,400 people, of which 1,399 are just great, and they've got one grouch. And I'm talking to the one grouch, and I'm kidding, of course, but it's just a wonderful place.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in conjunction with this, I know Julie Fisher of the Texas Hill Country Freethinkers has been working on, really working hard, getting a proclamation from Governor Bush recognizing October as Freethought Month. Have you been on this thing, this at all? Have you done any of the letter writing?
I've only written my own letter and encouraged others, but I, of course, have gotten the standard denial that every other person that has written in saying...
Well, I just wonder, Ed, since you've been out visiting, you know, doing some of this stone gathering or whatever, did you go to headstones and get the names of the deceased and write letters using any of... You didn't do any of that? You didn't pack the ballot box?
No, I actually I went via the website that Governor Bush has set up, and went in with your limit of 200 words, and they came back and said, no, it really isn't of interest to us. And I guess I can understand that it wouldn't be of interest to Governor Bush. He publicly made a statement that at Bandera on May 18th that his role basically is to push the Judeo-Christian agenda. And I was kind of shocked to hear a state official come out public like that. I don't know, to me it sounds almost like, hey, not everybody is a citizen in Texas. I only represent part of the citizenry.
There's some second-class citizens, you think, that if you're not Judeo-Christian, you're a second-class citizen.
Well, if you're a citizen at all.
Aha.
And I don't know if that smacks of bigotry or not, you know.
Yeah. You wouldn't say bigotry runs in the Bush family? Would you say that, Ed?
Well, there was
Go ahead, say it, Ed.
While his dad was running for re-election at O'Hare Airport in Chicago, he was...
Madeline Murray O'Hare?
No, the O'Hare Airport.
Oh.
He was asked a question about people that were not religious, and he was saying they shouldn't even be citizens of this country. And I don't know if he was including the first 7 presidents of the United States, and Benjamin Franklin and Tom Paine, and some of those people should never have been citizens of this country, possibly. Yeah. I guess they don't think sometimes that they should be president for all, governor for all.
Well, I have to say that that particular incident where George W.'s father, the George Bush, specifically denied the patriotism of anyone who is an atheist. I know people in my family, and I served overseas in the armed forces in time of war as out of a sense of duty to my country, and I certainly feel that I have the right, as much as the average citizen at least, to make the claim to being a patriot and to acting out of a sense of patriotism. And I must say, I take personal offense at George Bush and all of his family, George W. Bush, for impugning my character as a patriot and suggesting that I should take some kind of second-class situation as a result of my not adhering to, to Judeo-Christian views. I certainly take offense at that, and I think even Christians should take offense at the fact that that someone would, for them, put someone else into a second-class role.
I could join you on that, Don. I spent 35 years with the Department of Defense.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I don't know why they didn't fire me if I wasn't patriotic.
Wasn't a patriot.
Yeah, I thought I was working for the United States all the time.
Yeah.
But then isn't that a case of excuse me, bringing combining religion with politics?
Absolutely.
Government,
absolutely. So I think we ought to take every chance that we get to beat up on them about that, Ed.
Well, there was an interesting bumper sticker outside on someone's car that showed someone pushing church and state apart, and it says, "Freedom is the distance between church and state."
I like that.
And it seems like our government, state government, is bringing the two together.
Right, absolutely. Well, this event in Comfort, I think, will certainly give us a chance to communicate, with more people, to spread awareness. Like many other things, one of the first steps in solving a problem is raising consciousness. Mm-hmm. As they say, getting it onto the radar screen. Mm-hmm. And so I certainly hope that this event will help get us onto the radar screen. We'd like to invite all of our viewers to attend on October 4th in the Comfort Park. You can start arriving at 1 and the festivities will start at 2. Did you have any last-minute thoughts on it, Ed? Anything else you wanted to add?
One of the local freethinkers is even via the web, I guess, emailing people in Europe, Germany primarily, that may have ties to these people going back. So we might possibly have people from Europe getting involved.
Some international guests, huh?
Yes, could well.
Okay, well, you've done a good job, Ed. Thanks for being with us today. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm not having second thoughts about it, but I'll think about having you on the second time to tell us, in retrospect, how it all went after it's all over. How about that?
Hey, be happy to do that if I've survived.
Lord willing and the creek don't rise.
Yeah, I think that's what we say.
That's what we say here in Texas. Well, it's certainly a pleasure to have you with us today on Freethought Forum. We would like to encourage you to consider some of the ideas that we put forth on this show. We talk about, sometimes in a kidding fashion, about religion and the effects of religion on our society. But as a matter of fact, dogma, belief in the supernatural, is so closely tied into our life and is such an all-encompassing and such a totally absorbing atmosphere that we don't recognize how it affects our thoughts and our behaviors. So we would like to appeal to you to use your mind, to think for yourself, to step outside of those boundaries that have been placed around your life, to become a free thinker. Come back and be with us again on Freethought Forum. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. We would like to affect your lives. We'd like to invite you to join with us and affect other people's lives. Thank you very much. This is Don Lawrence for Freethought Forum.
As I please, and this gives me pleasure.
My conscience decrees, this right I must treasure.
My thoughts will not cater
To duke or dictator, no person can deny. Digadonken